It's that time of year again. Vikings at the combine, obviously. That's going on. The workouts get underway today. But as we are in the off season, it's always good time to look ahead towards the upcoming season of 2025 that's at hand. Last year, we saw Sam Darnold have a career-changing season, explode onto the scene, shock the world with his incredible run last season. Obviously, didn't end the way he wanted to, but he's going to make life-changing money this offseason. So, Will and Joe, I'm going to put this to you this way: give me 5 candidates when you're looking at the roster right now, or potential additions maybe in the offseason through the draft or free agency. 5 players for the Vikings who could have career-changing, explosive seasons in 2025. Will, I'll start with you. Give me one of them, and we'll go back and forth between you guys.
Yeah, I think you have to look. I mean, I don't know about potential additions. I think you can speculate on a lot of guys who the Vikings could bring in via the draft, via free agency. I would look to just the young guys on the roster, some guys who have maybe shown a little bit of potential and haven't taken that next step. And I think the most obvious one that comes to mind that we should get out of the way is, well, I guess there's an even more obvious one.
There's
Would be
two very obvious ones.
There's two very obvious ones. I was actually thinking of the second first-round pick last year in Dallas Turner.
Yes.
JJ McCarthy, it would maybe even be more obvious if he ends up as a starting quarterback, which I think we expect. But I'll stick with Dallas Turner for now. I think the flashes that you saw from him in the second half of last season, he had, I think it was 3 or 4 straight games with either a sack or he had an interception against the Seattle Seahawks where he fully dropped into coverage. He looked like a guy who, with some patience, Vikings fans are going to be happy with. It wasn't by any means the rookie season that you hope for from a 17th overall pick, but keep in mind, as we've pointed out, he was playing behind 2 Pro Bowl level outside linebackers in Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard. Was learning a complex kind of defense, a complex role, a lot of different responsibilities. It's not just purely go get after the quarterback. He was learning a lot of the things that make Andrew Van Ginkel so good. I'm high on Dallas Turner. He was, I think, 21 coming out of college, maybe 22 now. I think he has a chance to, to be clear, even with Van Ginkel and Grenard expected back this season, there's no reason to expect them not to be here. Pat Jones will be gone, so Dallas Turner, being that number 3, should be able to play 600, 700 snaps, and I can see him maybe not pushing towards 10 sacks or anything, but having a 7-8 sack type of Pat Jones year. I really can see that happening.
That's realistic, but that doesn't meet the threshold for cataclysmic, global changing events. Fair. You want to know what I mean? I'm talking about JJ McCarthy coming in and becoming Tom Brady or Joe Montana or Dan Marino, somebody of that caliber, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. This is the kind of stuff we're looking at, and this is the ultimate ceiling game. So are there even 5 guys on this roster who can change the course of football history in Minnesota the way a tsunami could change the course of history in a coastal city, or an earthquake on a fault line, something like that? What if a player is likened to the asteroid that scientists now say has no chance of hitting Earth in 2032?
Oh.
And how can they actually do that to me? They go from, it's a 1.7% chance of hitting the planet to 2.4 to 2.7 to 3.1%. And then a week later, they're like, you know what? We did our math wrong. It's not going to hit us.
Disappointing.
I can't trust NASA at all anymore.
Something that you guys want to happen?
First, they faked the moon landing, and now they lied to me about this. I can't handle that. I need the truth, and I need opportunity. I need something to keep me going, a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of buzz. So who are these players? And yes, the super typhoon is JJ McCarthy. The asteroid is Dallas Turner. Another one, potentially like, let's say, you know how back in the Younger Dryas days, 12,000 years ago, there are woolly mammoths that were instantly frozen so rapidly that they had erections when they were dug up by excavators years later. That's a fact. And what happens is the blood flows to your limbs and the outer parts of your body to keep you warm. And that's true. Woolly mammoths
Right.
with erections.
I believe
That's a fact, my friend. They had food still in their mouths and they were preserved that way. So who's going to come in and be that type of impact player for the Vikings next year? Here's one. Walter Rouse. Nobody's talking about Walter Rouse when you have so many offensive line issues. And with the guard play, you might be replacing Blake Brandel. You might be replacing Dalton Reisner and Ed Ingram. It's not might. It's Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah saying we're going to, quote, really aggressively attack upgrading those weaknesses. So we know they're going to do that. We know they're going to look to free agency in the draft for help there. But Walter Rouse is a guy they were experimenting with from tackle to guard all season long. And he just kind of sat in the background. This is a monster athletic freak who has basketball in his bloodlines. He could come in and play guard and be a mammoth human being on that offensive line. No pun intended.
Was that a pun intended?
No pun intended. But I'm just saying, Walter Rouse is a guy who could have a cataclysmic-like effect on the Minnesota Vikings and change the course of history. So I'm really feeling these vibes. There aren't many opportunities in life where these things happen, guys. And we have a few players on this roster who meet that potential threshold and could change the entire narrative of the globe.
There's really no smooth way to transition out of what Joe just said there. So, Will, what's your second player?
Yeah, I don't know much about woolly mammoths and whatnot, but I will say another guy, if you're looking a little deeper beyond the last year's 2 first-round picks, I like Walter Rouse. I don't know that maybe he has a chance to come in and play some guard and change the course of human history. We'll see. I would point to a guy coming back from an ACL injury. It was a 3rd-round pick in 2023, Mekhi Blackmon.
Ooh.
I think has a chance to have a very strong season for the Vikings. I think he will absolutely be he's not going to be handed a starting cornerback spot. The Vikings are going to bring in other options, free agency, the draft. But I think there's a good chance that he wins one of those top 3 roles. And based on what we saw in his rookie season, there were a lot of promising signs there of stickiness in coverage and a guy who's not afraid, despite being, I think, like 5'9", not being afraid to come downhill and play against the run as well. So I think we could see signs this year. And maybe 2026, when he's fully kind of another year removed from the ACL, will be when he fully explodes. But I think this could be a strong season and maybe an Antoine Winfield type of career trajectory. That would be the best case scenario for a guy like Mekhi Blackmon, who I think the Vikings are still really high on despite last year's injury.
Let me throw this at you. Like we talk about, guys, there aren't many times the wheel is invented in 3500 BCE or the printing press in 1440. Hey, Johannes Gutenberg, just brilliant. Kevin O'Connell's on a Gutenberg-like level. Same with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. The telephone in 1876. The internet. Did you know it wasn't Al Gore that invented the internet? It was actually invented in 1969. That's incredible. It just came to life in the 90s and early 2000s. The smartphone in 2007, large language models in 2018. Are you kidding me? Who's next? Theo Jackson in 2025. Theo Jackson may have an opportunity to play big-time safety reps, snaps, if Cam Bynum doesn't re-sign and if Harrison Smith retires. Now, that opportunity may not be afforded to him, but if it is, I think he's a guy who could come in and be the next Vikings invention, so to speak, to really change the course of history.
Will?
I love it. Once again, I'm not going to live up to the bar set here by the intros, but I got one more player that is on my mind here, a guy who flashed last season and I think has a chance to have a much bigger role this year. That would be Jaylen Redmond, the former UFL legend. I'm now blanking on which team he played for in the UFL, but
I can't name one UFL team. None.
Now I got to look it up because it's going to bother me otherwise. But
I can name the San Antonio Brahmas because The Rock named it.
Oh, it was the Arlington Renegades. Jaylen Redmond was playing for the Arlington Renegades and then made his way to the NFL and really impressed for the Vikings. There were 2 games in a row last season where he had multiple tackles for loss, which is not easy to do as a defensive lineman who's not the biggest guy in the world. Again, it's similar to the Mekhi Blackman situation or the Theo Jackson, although those guys are maybe a little more established, Blackman in particular with draft pedigree. But even if the Vikings add defensive tackle in free agency, draft one as high as 24th overall, Jaylen Redmond is going to be a guy who's going to be in that mix for playing time because of the juice that he brings you as a pass rusher, batting passes down at the line, beating guards with his quickness, his athleticism. He's got some power. I think he's a guy to really keep an eye on. And it's also just a fun underdog story as well coming out of the UFL. So that would be my other one to keep an eye on next season.
What level of natural disaster would you compare his emergence next season to? Would it be like a not quite a super volcano, but maybe something like they have in the Colombo, the underwater volcano that has many tremors and rising floor levels in the ocean over near Santorini, on the Santorini fault line over by Greece? Something like that. It's not quite a super volcano, but
exactly
it's
what I was thinking.
Pretty scary and intense.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the Santorini volcano. That is so perfect.
Yeah.
Joe, you got a third one here?
No, I'm out. Fresh out, boys.
I was trying to think if there's anybody else. We've covered basically JJ McCarthy and a bunch of defensive guys and Walter Rouse, I suppose.
Let me pitch a couple to you guys.
Why not Bo Richter?
Yeah, it's a good one.
The Richter scale?
Oh, it just makes sense.
There you go. Let me pitch one to you. He had an incredible start to his rookie campaign. Let me pull up the exact numbers. He went 20 for 20 and 14 of 14. Yes, Will Reichard in his first 7 games. Then got injured, got a little bit of a knock, missed a couple field goals in that Indianapolis game and caused some concerns. Went out injured for a couple weeks, came back, was 10 of 14 from field goals, was perfect from extra points. But obviously, those missed field goals in the second half probably still due to a nagging injury. Would you say that it's a possibility? Comes back this year, probably fully healthy, probably ready to go. NFL clearly needs a new all-star kicker to get behind because the previous one is in a bit of trouble. So why not Will Reichard step in? Will Reichard,
no chance.
The kicking genius. I know it's Minnesota. I know we're all hesitant about our kickers, but Will Reichard in those first 7 games was money from every single bit of range, boys.
Will Reichard being an absolute game-changing monster in Minnesota has the same odds of an F5 tornado hitting Seattle.
Well, what are we talking about here?
The climate's not right. The climate's not
right. We're talking about game-changing, world-altering events. Why would a kicker being incredible in Minnesota not be a world-altering event?
No, it would be. I'm just saying
that's what we're talking about here. That's the whole premise of this show.
The odds of that happening are less than that asteroid hitting the planet in 2032. It just is. You got to go through the keyhole, right? The space keyhole. It has to be perfect, and the odds of that happening with a kicker in Minnesota, very, very low. In fact, microscopic. Less than that asteroid's chances of hitting the planet. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Will Reichard's a babyface assassin. Look at that guy. You don't presume anything from him. And then he's going to come in looking like he's 14 years old, and he's going to kick and make every single field goal when he's healthy.
Well, I think Joe's right. We live in Minnesota to avoid the natural disasters, of the coasts, the earthquakes and the tsunamis and hurricanes and all these things. But part of that contract that we've signed is that we cannot ever have a good kicker. So, no, but I do genuinely think, like Jonathan, that Will Reichard could be the one savior to change all that. When he had the little quad thing last year, shout out to John Parker Romo, but I think Will Reichard, he might just become the next Justin Tucker in a league that needs a Justin Tucker who's not going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
There's a better chance that little kids from elementary schools around the state are writing him letters saying it's okay. It'll improve. It's not all about football and life. Go be a family man. Raise your kids. Impact the world that way.
Will I get blocked by him for making a snide comment about his U.S. men's national team commentary too?
Did that happen to you?
Yeah, I got blocked by who? I'm blanking on his name. Who was the kicker we were referencing?
Blair Walsh.
Yeah, I got blocked by Blair Walsh because he made some comments about the U.S. men's national team during one of the World Cups, and being the snot-nosed mid-20-year-old, I had to make a snide comment, and he didn't like it, so I think I got blocked.
Maybe he was intimidated because
happens.
you're a better D3 athlete than he was. I once asked Blair Walsh about UFOs at training camp. That's a true story.
How'd that go?
When they were in Mankato, I asked him about Aaron Rodgers' obsession with UFOs. And he said something along the lines of like, that fits the brand for Aaron Rodgers. I lost all respect for him right there because he demeaned my community.
Will, you got a follow-up? Because I don't.
No, I don't. I was just looking at the roster trying to find any other possibilities here.
Last possibility that I'm going to throw out to you here, guys, before we close the show today. Jaylen Naylor, third string wide receiver, obviously, or third wide receiver here for the Vikings, behind Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison may be missing a couple games at the start of the season. Slot in Jaylen Naylor right there. We've seen some flashes from him over the years. This will be year 4, though, in the system. Can he finally break out in year 4, Will?
No, probably not. Last year he had 414 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think that's about his ceiling, unless Jefferson or Addison were to miss significant time. But I don't know that the Vikings would want him to be the number 2 in that situation. He's kind of KJ Osborne-y, although KJ Osborne had multiple like 600, 700 yard seasons. So we'll see. I think one more I would say that's not on the roster, which you kind of hinted earlier in the show. I think the Vikings are going to draft a running back, not necessarily with one of their top picks, maybe. But if let's say they draft a running back with that comp pick from Kirk Cousins, 97th overall, and it's like RJ Harvey from UCF or Devin Neal from Kansas or Ali something from Oklahoma State. What's that dude's name? Never mind. That whoever they draft there, I think could have a really strong immediate season because of the depth of this running back class. Ollie Gordon, that's his name. So that would be another one that I would point to. Whichever running back the Vikings draft, even if they bring back Aaron Jones, I think we could see a rookie running back do some very fun things this year in Kevin O'Connell's offense.
Would you be pissed if they take a running back not named Ashton Genty in the first round?
Ooh.
Not
Ashton Genty falls to them at 24.
Oh, you have to take him then. That's not going to happen.
100%.
No.
But I wouldn't be pissed because it would be fun as hell if they draft Caleb Johnson or Omarion Hampton or even Trevion Henderson 24th. I would just question the strategy a little bit, just given the depth of this running back class. I think if you're going to do it, you trade down, get an extra day 2 or day 3 pick, and you do it somewhere in like the 40 to 100 range. But I don't know. I wouldn't be pissed. I mean, Omarion Hampton in particular, Caleb Johnson, like those dudes are really, really good. And I think they would be getting even more buzz in a year where maybe Ashton Genty didn't exist, or maybe there weren't a million of these good running backs who you might be able to get on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round.
All right. Well, that's kind of why, that's why everybody's saying it's organizational malpractice that the Vikings don't tag and trade Sam Darnold. And I mean, the obvious risk is, guys, that they franchise tag him, pay him $41 million, and they have no takers. But what are the odds that there are no takers? Even if it's not even a bidding war, somebody's going to give a 3rd or 4th round pick and maybe some more for Sam Darnold, who's 27 and fresh off a Pro Bowl season. Somebody's going to do that. So
the Vikings are definitely trying to make it happen, because why not get something for him this year when you need more picks instead of the comp pick in 2026?
Right.
The question, I think you need multiple teams interested to some degree to create a little bit of a bidding war, get some sort of price. It's tricky for the other teams because then you just got Darnold on this 1-year thing, and then you got to figure out what you want to do beyond that if he's going to be more than a 1-year stopgap for you. But that might be desirable in some ways to just kind of give him a trial run instead of giving him a 3-year, $120 million type of deal with 2 years really locked in. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. But I think the Vikings, my favorite strategy for them, I tweeted about this yesterday, try to tag and trade Darnold and then trade down from 24 and just increase your number of swings in the top 100 of a deep draft class. If you can, they've got 24 and 97 right now. If you could add another top 100 pick from Darnold and then add another top 100 pick trading down from 24, people are going to do the thing, and they already have of, I don't want Kwesi down. Like, give Kwesi fewer chances to mess up picks. Like, come on, that's dumb. How about we give him more chances? More chances if you don't think he's very good at drafting, which I don't think the sample size is big enough to say that yet. Yeah, you need more chances to go running back, cornerback, D tackle, O-line, whatever it may be. So
that's
what I hope they can pull off.
On this topic of Sam Darnold, from what you guys have heard so far from Indianapolis, from the Combine this week, have your opinions changed on what the Vikings are going to do with Sam Darnold this offseason?
No, I mean it's pretty flat out clear in my opinion. They're raising the JJ McCarthy. He's ready. He's over 200-pound stakes. I mean, yeah, there's just nothing that suggests that Sam Darnold's going to be the guy. The way Kevin O'Connell talks about him is interesting. He was on KFAN radio at the Combine on Wednesday. Was it yesterday or Tuesday? I can't remember.
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday. And he went out of his way to clarify something he said 2 days before the Super Bowl about Sam Darnold earning the right to see what a Pro Bowl quarterback can get in free agency. I mean, you flat out said that you spilled the beans when you did that. I mean, it's not just coach speak, right? Like, yeah, he's earned the right to get paid. Well, if you're going to say that, then say maybe we'll be the team that pays him. And he never said that. So when you go out of your way to try and clarify something weeks later, to me, all that is doing is setting the stage to let the NFL know that, he's really good. He's really good. You should probably pay us to get him because he deserves that. And we might keep him. So it's a little bit of backpedaling. And when that happens, it's just a red flag. And I think it's pretty obvious that they don't have him in their plans for 2025.
Will?
I agree. I've never sent, I was starting to think about it in like week 16 against the Packers or whatever, but I've never really seen a scenario since the season ended where it's Darnold, because I think they're going to make, I do think they'll make him an offer, but I just think it's going to be well below his market value, and he's going to want to maximize his earnings as all players do. And it's going to be JJ McCarthy. And I've started to think more openly about this tag and trade thing instead of just Darnold hitting free agency. And I think that's really ideal for the Vikings if you can make it work, but you have to have that trade really wink, wink ironed out, because if you tag him and then you're stuck with him, that's going to really mess with the rest of your offseason plan.
For sure.
But boys, I don't think he's back.
It has been a wide-ranging discussion here for this version of our Bring Me the Sports YouTube video. Appreciate your guys' input. Appreciate all the wild topics we discussed today. Do go read their work at Vikings, Timberwolves, Twins, and Gophers on SI. Do hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It does help us get found. Also notifies you every time we post a new video here on the channel. Talk to you again tomorrow with another topic across Minnesota sports.